Welcome to our meeting on June 14th. For purposes, for those watching at home, this is the public hearing on budget, which is proposed for fiscal year 2019. The way we're going to first, I'll recognize the clerk to call the roll.
Bouchard. Here. Mayor Boulay.
Here.
Councillor Champlin. Councillor Cohen.
Here.
Councillor Grady Sexton. Here. Councillor Hirschlag.
Here.
Councillor Keach.
Here.
Councillor Kitten. Here. Councillor Kretovic.
Here.
Councillor Matson.
Here.
Councillor Nyan.
Present.
Councillor St. Hilaire.
Here.
Councillor Shirtliff.
He is excused.
Todd.
Here.
And Councillor Werner.
Here. Okay. Good to see everybody. With your approval, I would ask the city clerk to read the 6 public hearings this evening, and then anyone wishing to testify on any portion of the bill can come up right away, and that way they don't have to decide which one to do not. Just open them all up, and then of course we'll vote on them individually. But for the purpose of the public hearing, does anybody have a problem with doing that? Okay. Yep. Sit back, Madam Clerk, it's all yours.
Alrighty. First one is a resolution fixing and determining the amount of money to be approved by the City of Concord for fiscal year 2019 ending June 30th, 2019, and repurposing funds made available through the annual capital closeout and repurposing of capital projects resolution. Second is a resolution amending the amount of money to be appropriated by the City of Concord for fiscal year 2019 ending June 30th, 2019, repurposing funds made available through the annual capital closeout and repurposing of capital projects. Then there's a resolution for bonded within the capital budget for fiscal year 2009, authorizing and approving the expenditure of $10,151,000 and authorizing the issuance of $10,151,000 in bonds and notes for various capital projects. Then there's a resolution for the annual closeout and repurposing of capital project fund, an ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title 1, General Code, Chapter 1, Government Organization, by amending Schedule 1 of Article 1-5, Fees, Fines, and Penalties for water rates, and then an ordinance in the Code of Ordinance, Title 1, General Code, Chapter 1, Government Organization, amending Schedule 1, Article 1-5, Fees, Fines, and Penalties for sewer rates.
Thank you very much. So with that, I'll open up to the public. We'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to testify on any portion of the city budget? Okay, don't be shy. If you want to speak, I encourage you to do so now. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Kim Wheeler, Concord, New Hampshire. I'm here to talk about Beaver Meadow. Linda's here to support the same issue. The history of Beaver is very personal to me. I had the privilege of there, and it was my childhood playground for about 20 years. My dad, Chet Wheeler, was the golf pro there for 25 years. So I remember the old clubhouse. I watched the new clubhouse be built, watched the new 9 be constructed. So I watched the whole evolution of Beaver Meadow for a long time. So I believe this is a historic site, the City of Concord, and that the city has a responsibility and an obligation to maintain its identity as the oldest golf course in the state of Hampshire. So with a little creative marketing and investing in the clubhouse to make a clubhouse and the golf course could be an awesome venue for weddings or I know it's used for that now, but to it would be a great asset. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
My name is Linda Matledge, and I'm here to talk about the golf course. I've lived in Concord since 1984, and one of the things really great about Concord is all the very many things, quality of life things that we have here for the people who live here. You know, we have a wonderful trail system for people to hike on. We have parks, we have pools, we have Memorial Field, Everett Arena, and we have Beaver Meadow Golf Course. And it is, and not everybody uses all of these amenities. You know, I have personally have never even dipped a toe in any pools, but I'm happy to support with my property taxes. And think that Beaver Meadow is just, it's just another one thing about Concord, and it is historic. It's also historic because it was founded by women. Nobody knows that. And I would like to speak in favor of improving the course and keeping it a public course. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody have questions? Just appreciate you coming out tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, sir, and welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Wonderful.
Been a while since I've been in front of one of these mics.
Hi.
My name is Bob Norton. I live at 90 Ave in Concord. I've been Concord since 1976. You know, the Greeks and the Romans believed in public places. And if you go to Athens or Rome, you'll see the historic vestiges of the public places. Public places are fundamental to the health of the community. Concord is rich in public places. When you walk around Beaver Meadow, you see vestiges of the history of the community. You see a memorial to Walter Carlson on 17th Tee, a POW in a German POW camp in War II, a former police chief. You sail to Jim Kennan on the 8th, and I don't begin to have to tell the city council how many things Jim Kennan did as a volunteer for this community. The Holden family memorialized in a water fountain on the 13th green. And Chet Wheeler, one of the most decorated citizens of Concord in World War II, the recipient of the Distinguished Service Cross and a Purple Heart for his service to Kiska. Extraordinary commitments of people to this public place, which is Beaver Meadow. I don't look at it as a golf course. I look at it as a public treasure. Beaver Meadow is an extraordinary place that people have made a commitment to from 1896 to today. Wise people. And as Ms. Matledge says, not every citizen of this community uses every facility. I don't use Memorial Field anymore, but my kids did. I don't go to the pools. I don't walk the trails. But I have a serious commitment to extraordinary public spaces that are in this community. I further believe it should not be an enterprise fund. I believe so strongly in the Everett Arena and in Beaver Meadow that I believe they ought to be a fundamental part of this budget, and the city ought to make a commitment to these two places and not make them there sitting as enterprise funds separate from everything else. Beaver Meadow is one of the most important public places in this community, as is Everett Arena. And I would like to see the city council make a commitment to both those places by getting them out of enterprise funds and make them the fundamental part of the budget. I don't want to take any more of your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Norton?
Any questions?
Great to see you. Thank you. Well. Anyone else wish to share their thoughts? Budget, lots of line items. Anybody? You sure? Okay, with that, we will close the public hearing. And I'll take us to the action phase. Madam Clerk, item please.
A resolution fixing and determining the amount of money to be appropriated by the City of Concord for the fiscal year 2019 ending June 30th, 2019, and repurposing funds made available to the annual capital closeout and repurposing of capital projects resolution.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion?
Approve.
Second. Motion made and seconded to approve, and just wait 1 second. Richard.
I would do it under.
Capital budget 8.
Yes.
So with that, everybody clear on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Sorry.
Sorry, I apologize. Yes.
Thank you. If you'll indulge a few moments here, I'll speak to all the issues that we're going to be voting on this evening. Let me be clear about this, so I'm not one to use it voting against our police and fire departments. In fact, I support the budget proposals for public safety. I support the majority of the budget. Areas of the budget that I feel are not in the best interest of the community or impose additional hardships for those I represent that I oppose. It is the issues of delayed taxes and tax abatements or relief, while at the same time the budget increases could and would be minimized if those taxes were collected from day one and used for citywide and school services. It's my concern that we must take care of and pay for what we currently have, and there are new revenues in excess of those that are necessary to meet the costs of maintenance and operation of what we have. Then we can consider moving forward with the plans for expanded projects and services. But we must be sure that there are new revenue sources to pay for those expanded items to limit property tax increases. This council has been unwilling to set realistic fees that would pay the costs associated with the operation and maintenance of the parking fund, even though the administration came forward with numerous proposals that would have had the parking fund able to meet their expenses from sources other than your property taxes. The result is the general fund, your property taxes, will continue to subsidize the parking fund. The golf course is an example of an enterprise fund that is no longer able to meet their financial obligations through their current fees and the revenues they generate. As we move forward with needed capital for the golf course, it will continue to necessitate greater contributions from the general fund. The arena, water, and wastewater funds are anticipated to run in the red. The difference between funds and the golf course is that these funds have enough reserve working capital on hand to cover the losses, while it is determined how to revamp user fees and rate structures. The water fund and the wastewater fund will see a 3% and 4% rate increase for the 2019 budget. It is also important to note that the water and wastewater funds have reserves in excess of what has been recommended. While there is a recommended increase in rates, there is also an intentional down of the reserve. The increase slowed the drawdown and to prevent stick when the reserve reaches the recommended amount. The airport will also operate in the red this year, but also currently has enough working capital and reserve to cover those expenses. I understand the need to have funds. What I want to avoid having is funds without a specific project that they will be utilized. I would like to continue to see future project estimated costs identified and a time for when those projects will be undertaken. The goal is to have enough in reserve to control the potential for shock when improvements or new facilities are undertaken. The city continues to keep Langley Parkway in the capital improvement program, even though it is my opinion the current plan does not address these traffic concerns between Pennacook Street and 390 and will divert traffic from one neighborhood to another. This will not solve the issues that cut through neighborhoods, but just move it from one neighborhood to another. We continue to plan for additional spending at Memorial Field, even though we still have not developed a facility study that takes into account how it's currently being used or is expected to be used over the 20 years. We're looking in the future to fund a $4 million turf field at Terrell Park as costs escalate to maintain and operate our recreational facilities. We have recently replaced 5 tennis courts at Memorial Field, our city pools, and we're in the process of repairing Main Street. All this work is the result of not getting it right the first time. Do I need to add Downing Street to this list? We're told, and I agree, that we need a new police station and at least one new fire station. Yet we're more focused on building the turf field at Terrell Park, potentially providing funding for a rail trail than we are for planning for needed replacement for public safety departments. We have seen increases in the total assessed value of the city over the last 2 years of $25 million. That is an increase of 0.0065% in a city with a total assessment of over $4 billion. To put that in even perspective, with the city's portion of the tax currently set at $9.84 per thousand, that $25 million will yield $246,000 in tax revenue. That will have a little more than a 0.6% impact on revenue being raised by property taxes for city expenses. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Else have any comments? Mayor Pro Tem, thank you, President.
I've got a question, Your Honor.
Sure.
The resolution, was that updated, or are the appropriate resolutions updated with what we did in work session? Or do we have to add that in later?
understanding from Ms. LeBrun that everything's been updated. And under item 7 will be, I have one clarification of what we did earlier regarding the $30,000 at the golf course, as well as that's when anyone who wishes to declare conflict of voting on something, we'll do that under item 7.
Great, thank you.
Council Krivik.
Thanks, Your Honor. There's so much I could expound upon here. I find it very difficult sometimes when we're sitting in our council meetings and one of our fellow councilors starts bringing out all these numbers to us, and they have it written down, not sharing that information with the rest of us. This is the number on everybody to remember. 96% of the golf course funds are being funded by the golf course. We are short 4%. That's and $79,650 going to be transferred out to the general fund. That's what is budgeted. And that's what creates a $77,000 loss. We are short by less than $3,000. And this is the complaint here. Langley Parkway, we know we need to have conversations in our community between our neighborhood. But instead of having those conversations, let's take it out of the budget. Let's not have those discussions now. It's very frustrating sometimes to sit here and listen to that list that we hear month after month after month, and we never seem to move forward. I think this budget, and especially the changes that we made, our community needs and appreciates all of the quality of life issues that we have here, and that's what this budget represents to me, is we've heard for the quality of life in this community related to the pools, that's why we're fixing them up, related to the golf course, related to the arena, related to the airport. This is what makes Concord special, because you can get the town next door and they don't have it, and pick the town next to that and next to that and next to that. And we have 23 communities that rely on Concord for these quality of life issues. This is important to us, it's into this region, and that's why I'm supporting this budget.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilor Todd.
Your Honor, I concur with Councilor Krivik. I would just like to add to that I take issue with one who says that we are ignoring, let's say, for example, police and fire or any other safety service in the city at the expense of looking at or funding to other projects. Concord is a very city, and we have the capability to handle more than one project at once, and to handle more than one budgetary at once. And that's exactly what we do, and I think that this proves that we do it very well. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I guess I had a question for you, if you would mind. You listed all items that give you pause to against the budget. We've met for weeks now to discuss this. We've had public hearings on the budget. What I heard you present is a litany of things that you consider to be. I'm looking for. Do you have the same list of solutions that you'd like to propose? Because I don't remember at any which you really, other than Langley Parkway to remove, that you've come up with solutions. Is there something?
We've had this discussion a number of times. One of the things I've recommended or for is having community, and we saw some of that tonight. I agree with the gentleman who spoke last. I asked why the golf course, a number of years ago, I asked, probably 3 or 4 years ago, why the golf course couldn't become a city department like other departments. And I was told it's because we would lose the oversight that we currently have as an enterprise. Whether or not I agreed with that assessment is a different situation, but that was the response I received at the time. When we talk about Langley Parkway, I've made my concerns clear on numerous occasions. I've also made my concerns clear on the golf course and the other issues. I don't see anything in the,
I did the concerns, and you articulated them well. I'm looking for solutions.
So the solution is working with the administration. I'm not the,
we've been doing that for the past several weeks.
So the fact that I don't play golf and I don't know all the answers doesn't mean that I'm not aware that there's an issue or concern here. I think that's what it is. If you're asking me, well, how are you going to fix it? Well, you want me to give a flippant answer and say, well, close the golf course? That's not my intent. My intention isn't even to privatize. The intention is to find ways to have the golf course raise more revenue and work in a direction of being more self-sufficient. the same as I had hoped would happen with the parking fund. And what I saw with the parking fund from the meetings that I attended was that there was never a real serious effort on the part of the parking committee and you, the mayor, when you attended those meetings, to fund it in a manner that would allow it to be self-sufficient. I don't find it acceptable.
Anyone else? Councilor Todd.
Just as a member of the parking committee, I really don't understand the last comment from my colleague, Councilor Hirschlag. In fact, I think that the parking committee spent 2 years of work and multiple meetings with multiple opportunities for public input to do just that very thing, to come up with a plan that in fact would make the parking committee solvent. And if in fact wasn't the goal, there would not have been a reason to meet for 2 years. Thank you.
Your Honor, if I...
Councilor Chamberlain.
I also take umbrage at that comment about the parking committee from Councilor Hirschlag. I mean, we put an immense amount of effort and thought and deliberation into trying to make the parking fund sufficient, and we didn't please everybody, and we tried to also be very sensitive to to the cost to our visitors and to our residents, to being reasonable and being incremental in any sort of changes. But our whole motivation has been to make the parking fund fully sound. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilor Hirschlag.
Thank you, Your Honor. In regards to the parking fund, I'm certainly not suggesting nobody didn't put a lot of time and energy into this, including the administration. There are a number of proposals that came to the parking committee that would have removed the need for general fund contributions to the parking fund. If my numbers are correct, and sometimes they're not, it appears to me that instead of charging 50 cents an hour for the parking garage, if 75 cents an hour was charged and we charged 6 days a week in the parking garages, the parking fund would not need a general fund contribution. And again, these were words that came back to you folks, and it appeared to me going to those meetings that there was never an intention to go over a certain day that to me seemed to be preconceived. That's my opinion, and that's why I stated what I did. There is a way to have the parking fund self-sustaining. It was determined by the recommendations from the parking committee and then voted on by the council. I just don't agree with that.
Who else? Councilor Moore.
Your Honor, this discussion about the golf course as a public good is an interesting one, because I think it generally is. But the fact that we just added $30,000 to improve and make the golf course more attractive to events, which people are clamoring for, I really think, raise additional revenue. I think that's a very good solution. I think that we are doing things that are positive in this direction, and I think it will benefit. So I support the budget fully as well.
Councilor Madsen.
We met multiple times, Parks and Rec, with Beaver Meadow over the course of more than a year, 2 years ago, with many meetings of exactly what we're talking about. How can we increase usage? How can we increase the money coming in? What other things we do? Bringing in more waste, and also talking about the size and scope, what kind of events that we could bring there. So these have been ongoing, and they have been things that we have actively worked on. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Champlin.
Thank you, Your Honor. I think this is going to be my last comment on this. And I wish that Councilor Hirschlag had paid as much attention to our policy decisions on the parking committee as he did on the dollars and cents, because notwithstanding the impression that people get, certainly we want to make it a self-sustaining fund, but we make decisions in parking based on the fact that it is an important economic resource. The reason that we maintained a 50-cent an hour parking fee for garages was in order to encourage the use of garages and to free up more spaces on Main Street for short-term visitors who sustain our downtown merchants. And the reason that parking is going to be free on Saturdays, when we extend parking to Saturdays, is for exactly the same reason. So our merchants don't have people parking in front of their businesses the entire day and keeping away their short-term clients. So there are policy decisions that we make, there are policy reasons we make these decisions. And I'm somewhat frustrated at not being apparent that this is a very complex system that we have of parking with multiple goals. Thank you, Your Honor.
Very much, Council Kenneth.
Thank you. Councilor Champlin covered the issues that I wanted to know.
Anyone else? Councilor Hirschlag.
So thank you. I do take exception with my fellow counselor. I'm aware of the policy issues, and I follow those, I think, fairly closely. But I disagree with your conclusions.
Councilor Hirschlag, one of the things that I heard you say in there is that we were making choices and putting public safety on the back burner, investing in other things, and I guess I would have to disagree that I think this budget does reflect on a continued investment in our public safety. You know, if it's the fire budget, we continue to invest in technology to give you the most up-to-date equipment to work and funding all of the overtime and staffing that we need to make sure that we are providing quality service, both in suppression and ambulatory to our citizens. I think in the police department, they do an absolutely outstanding job at protecting our community. I think we also continue to invest in them. Just look this year, we did the technique for the evidence pieces that will allow for more work in the detective area to continue to solve crimes. And that's just one piece I can think of off the top of my head. But I hope that no one at home, no one in the audience thinks that this council doesn't invest in our public safety. I think we take it very seriously. And it's not this year we've been continuing to invest, but for over the past several years. Okay, with that, we do have a motion to approve this item, and it's been duly seconded.
Yes.
With that, you ready for the vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any ayes have it?
No.
And we have one no. Councilor Hirschlag voting no. 7, Madam Clerk.
It is a resolution amending the amount of money to be appropriated by the City of Concord for fiscal year 2019 ending June 30th, 2019, and repurposing funds made available for the annual capital closeout and repurposing of capital projects resolution.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion? Approval.
Conflict, Your Honor?
Yeah, I'm about to those in 2 seconds. So the motion is to approve this. It's been seconded. With this item, I have just a couple of things I wanted to go over. Mr. LeBrun has asked to clarify that the tentative vote we took during the work session, that the $30,000 for the golf course tent is intended to be transferred from the general funds to the CIP 107 clubhouse and buildings tent structure. I just make sure to just clarify for the record. Are they comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay. I have a list. Hopefully I get it right, and if I have somebody or if I overstep, please let me know. I have Councilor Kretovic not voting on the Crisis Center for New Hampshire, as well as Councilor Amanda Sexton, myself. I have Councilor Alan Hirschlag not voting on the Pennacook Community Center. Is that correct?
Yes.
And did I miss any? And I will also not voting on Langley Parkway and the CIP. Councilor Todd.
Also for me, Your Honor, not voting on the Pennacook Community Center.
Thank you. Councilor Kretovic.
Road.
Whitney Road. And Councilor Champlin.
Chamber of Commerce, Your Honor.
Okay. So with that, I'm sorry, Councilor Bouchard.
Municipal Association.
Okay. Do you have all those? Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so with that clarification and declaring those, we do have a motion. Does anybody like to speak to the motion? Seeing none, ready for the question, all in favor, say
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
And the ayes have it with Hirschlag voting no. Madam Clerk, please.
A resolution for the bonded checks within the capital budget for fiscal year 2019, hereby authorizing and approving the expense of $10,151,000 and authorizing the issuance of $10,151,000 in bonds and notes for various capital projects.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. For this item, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the ayes have it.
No.
With council voting no. Item 9, please.
A resolution for the annual capital closeout and repurposing of capital project funds.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve this item. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the ayes have it. Madam Clerk, item 10, please.
An ordinance amending ordinances, Title I General Code, Chapter 1 Government Organization, by amending Schedule Article 1-5, fees, fines, and penalties for WAPs.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve this. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. All those opposed? And the ayes. Madam Clerk, item 11, please.
An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, Title I General Code, Chapter 1 Government Organization, amending Schedule 1 of Article 1-5, fees, fines, and penalties for sewer rates.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve this. Any discussion? Seeing none, ready for the question, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the ayes have it. Okay, that takes us to our suspense this evening. We have, if I could have a motion to take up suspense 1 through 4.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Madam Clerk, item suspense 1, please.
It's set on the agenda to be set for hearing to be held on July 9th. It's a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a development agreement with Granite Center LLC concerning development of real estate located at 4 through 6th Avenue, 8 through 14 Dixon Avenue, and 1 Square, as well as surface parking lots located on Dixon Avenue Store.
Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve setting this for public hearing July 9th. Is there any questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Madam Clerk, item suspense 2, please.
A resolution determining the project has a public benefit and approving an application by Granite Center LLC for a 7-year RSA 9E Community Revitalization Relief Incentive for the renovation of real estate located at 4 through 6 Dixon Avenue.
Be set for a public hearing.
Motion made and seconded to set item suspense 2 for a public hearing on July 9th. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the ayes have it. Clerk, suspense 3, please.
A resolution determining the project of public benefit and approving an application by the Center LLC for a 5-year RSA 79E Community Revitalization Tax Relief Incentive for the renovation of real estate at 814 Dixon Ave.
Move this be set for a public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to have item suspense 3 for a public hearing on July 9th. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Madam Clerk, item suspense 4, please.
A resolution determining the project has public benefit and approving application by Granite Center LLC for a 5-year RSA 79E Community Revitalization Tax Relief Incentive for the renovation of real estate located at 1 Eagle Square.
Move this be set for public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to set suspense 4 for a public hearing for July 9th. Is there any questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the ayes have it. I did have one, I'd like to under requests and comments. Big Gill here. Want to come and join us for a second? I still never understand why you're the recreation guy, you don't run. I don't know.
As long as fire's here, I think.
Well, I don't run, but there's the unit. I just want a clarification. So I read in our local newspaper something the other day. It was an article at the community center, which I think is just an absolute shining star, and I'm really excited about the ribbon cutting next week, and just nothing but incredibly positive reviews from people who've been there. But it said in the article that you were quoted saying that we were $400,000 over budget. Is that true?
I did not say that, no. I said it was $8 million, which was on time and on budget.
So to be clear, so when I was asked, I can with full confidence that this project is on time and under budget. Is that correct?
That is correct. I even had to go to Mr. Walsh to confirm the number before I said the number back.
So repeat one more time. The local paper is $400,000 over budget. It is actually under budget and on time.
That is correct.
Guaranteed.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking time. I didn't waste anybody's time, but it just kind of jumped out at me as something that I had a person ask me in the street. I appreciate you clarifying. Thank you. Thanks. Anybody else have any comments they want to make, by the way? Councilor Todd.
Your Honor, I just have a quick comment that the Concord Monitor announced the other day it's going to be moving printing operations to Pennacook and the site of the former Coke company, and I'd like to welcome the Monitor to Pennacook, offer my appreciation. For folks that might have questions in the neighborhood of this, please feel free to contact me, but so far I've heard nothing but positive feedback on this development, and I'm certain that the Monitor will be great neighbors and supporters of our locals in this community. Thank you, Your Honor.
Very well played. Councilor Cage.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to say for the record that the manager's review happened this evening, and this person is in charge of a $65 million company, and I think his compensation is right where it should.
Thank you. Okay. So with no other comments and completing the suspense items, we do have one other item. And let me just read this to you. The charter reference is 21B. In accordance with Section 21B of the City Charter, the Council shall conduct an evaluation of the City Manager's performance office annually. The City Council will determine in public session whether the City Manager's overall performance in office has been satisfactory or unsatisfactory. And the Council shall also establish the City Manager's compensation for the ensuing year. So performed that evaluation and negotiations and discussions with the manager over compensation. We have two to take up this evening. First, I would ask somebody to move a motion whether or not Mr. Spell has either been satisfactory or unsatisfactory at his overall performance this past year.
So moved.
Second.
Satisfactory. Satisfactory, but.
Okay. So we only have two choices. Mayor Pro Tem moves that motion that to move that City Manager Thomas Bell has a satisfactory rating as his overall performance this past year. And then seconded by?
Second. Everyone.
Sounds pretty much like everyone. Okay, with that, any questions or comments? Seeing none, or if the question, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? For the record, that is unanimous vote. The second motion would be the acceptance of the city manager's proposed contract. The only change in the contract that is currently on public record with the city clerk, and of course anybody actually wishing to go see that is always open and available. We are recommending a 1% increase to its contract, and that is the compensation financial piece of impact. So with that, do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded for the manager's contract. And before we actually vote, I just want to say,
Your Honor, would you want to follow you, or?
Go ahead. Sure.
I'll have the last word.
Council, no, go ahead. It doesn't matter.
Thank you. This is a little bit shorter, not because the manager, the previous comment, but not because I don't have realized the value of our city manager. One of the issues that make it difficult for me to determine a fair, reasonable compensation for the manager is that I believe we should have had a conversation and perhaps talk with the dreaded consultant to determine what a fair and reasonable salary is for the manager position in Concord long ago. We have had a number of compensation reviews and consultants with the city to determine the job descriptions and salary range for most, if not all, of our other employees. When I review the manager's contract, in addition to his salary, there are other areas where he receives compensation or reimbursements, retirement, dues, car allowance, severance, and so on. Is this fair? Excessive? Is it just about right? I won't fault Tom for the compensation packages he receives, and while there are any number of issues that concern me, many of those issues are the responsibility of the City Council. It's our responsibility to provide appropriate direction when setting policy. Overall, I believe our city manager performs well. He is a talented, hardworking, and a competent individual who not only carries out our policies, but provides suggestions and guidance to us to improve the services our city government provides. So we withhold an increase in compensation for the manager this year, even though collectively we feel he has done a good to excellent job this past year, because we have not defined the parameters of a compensation package for the Concord city, or do we reward him for a job well done and then make sure we do our jobs? I'm of the mind that the manager's salary is at or near the top of a reasonable and fair compensation package. It's also important for me to remember that we, the council, have not defined those limits. With that in mind, that Tom has received a raise and compensation adjustment every year he's been here, there appears to be a certain inherent unfairness if he were not to receive this for a job well done again. With this in mind, we'll be voting for the manager's contract, with the understanding if we have not defined the range of salary and compensation for the manager's position by the next contract, not support any additional increases in compensation in the future. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Gave 2 speeches tonight. Would you mind just passing those up to the clerk for the record? That'd be great. Want to comment on the manager's design?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to say that I think the city manager does an absolutely outstanding job. The value that he brings to the city is really unquantifiable, yet we try to do that every year through a compensation package. I defend the compensation package that we've presented to the manager. Anybody in Ward 7 or any of the city who wants to tell me about that can do so. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. Mr. Manager, I did not prepare a speech.
Thank you.
That's my increase to your good health, overall health. But I do want you to know that I think, and speak on behalf of everybody, it's an absolute thank you for everything you do, the time you take with your family, your ability to manage, I think, at times overwhelming tasks, the fact that you are an excellent communicator and making sure the members of the public know exactly what's going on in the city. We keep us informed. But most importantly, the tasks that we perform tonight and putting together a city budget, I think one of the most important things we do. It sets the tone, the level of service that we're here. It sets the tone for how we're going to grow, where we're going to grow, etc. And I think you are an outstanding leader, and I am glad to call you a friend. So,
Here.
So, with anyone else? Okay, all ready for the question? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And the ayes have it. That is all I have for business this evening. Is there anything else? With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Motion made by everyone, seconded by everyone. To adjourn, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And the ayes have it. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks, everybody.
For the boys.